Hey Vinny,
Yeah, Cardiff?
do you wanna go subreddit surfing? I wanna go subreddit surfing. Grab your phone, let's go subreddit surfing. Cause I wanna go subreddit surfing with you. We talk to folks from different subreddits because sometimes we just don't get it. We explore all kinds of subreddits. Subscribe now or you will regret it. Do you wanna go subreddit surfing? I wanna go subreddit surfing. Grab your phone, let's go subreddit surfing. Cause I wanna go subreddit surfing with you. Vinny and Cardiff go subreddit surfing. Mondays at 8 we are subreddit surfing. 10 is too late for subreddit surfing, so be here now for subreddit surfing today.
Aloha, Big Kahunas. Welcome back to the second episode of Season 3 of Subreddit Surfing. I'm your host. My name is Vinny, and joining me, as always, it's Cardiff Electric.
S3 episode 2, as we say in the business, Vinny.
What business?
The business of show.
I wouldn't even call it a show at this point. Well,
why not?
Because we just surf subreddits. That's all we do is we surf subreddits. We go on the internet and we look at another website and we talk about it.
Yeah, that's like half of the internet. I mean, literally, you're half the internet. Physically, your mic is out. I kind of like this Vinny better. Yes.
Is that better?
Yeah, you're back.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. This cable.
What garage sale did you buy that microphone from, Vinny?
I got it from the Imus estate from about a decade ago. So I'm just saying, Cardiff, all we do is we surf subreddits.
Mhm.
It might be a very brilliant idea because it's on par with Seinfeld's show about nothing.
Mm-hmm. And there is a science to what we do, Vinny. It's not just willy-nilly.
We're not doing science tonight, my friend.
No, we are.
No science.
We are.
No,
I think we're going to disagree on this topic, Vinny.
I'm doing jokes. I want to learn. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to listen.
Mhm.
I am not smart enough to do science, was my point, Cardiff.
Well, neither was I, obviously. As demonstrated backstage earlier. I believe I just learned how gravity works while we were backstage tonight.
So joining us, who is speaking of backstage, is our producer, Jimmy the Lip. Good evening, Jimmy.
Hi, Jimmy.
Aloha.
Thank you for all your hard work this week. You've done an outstanding job.
I do my best.
You've helped us find two outstanding guests about our topic.
I have.
Allegedly.
Yep.
Allegedly.
Now, we know you want to keep your job, so they better be good guests. You better not have screwed this up for us.
Yep, we're good. All good. Golden.
No, we are golden. We have some big stars from the Flat Earth. Did we set up? We're talking about Flat Earth tonight, or did I just?
I was about to. That was good. You spoiled it.
I spoiled
Flat
it.
Earth
It's
tonight.
The title of the show. I mean, it's not that big of a spoiler, but it's fine.
Sure.
I understand. I made a faux pas. Flat Earth.
Water under the bridge.
Pros
Flat
and
Earth.
cons.
We want to know what's going on this Reddit. I have been looking at it for a few days, and what I have kind of narrowed it down to is a bit of a pissing contest between the two sides. So it's a lot of fun. It's a fun Reddit because you get like a little bit of everything on it. But tonight, our guests, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, Jimmy, are both pro Flat Earth.
You were right.
Okay, great.
I couldn't, going through the subreddit, I couldn't tell like if the sub was pro or con in general. Like it seemed like most of it was memes making fun of flat earth stuff to me. Like that's kind of everything I was hitting on, but I know there was the pro side in there as well, but I don't know if they just get buried.
I read a lot of pro. I read a lot of pro posts myself because honestly, I've never thought about it. I've been told one thing my whole life, and because I've only been told one thing my whole life, something new sounds ridiculous to me. So maybe tonight is the night that we all just open up our minds and we listen and we find out what Flat Earth is all about. Sound good, guys?
It sounds good. I have to say I'm a little excited because I first learned of flat Earth from one of our guests tonight from a documentary, a Netflix and Amazon Prime documentary, Behind the Curve. Vinny, we have a big star in the flat Earth community here tonight.
Well, let's get rid of Jimmy then.
Yeah, please. We don't want to scare
both-
anyone off.
Both of our guests are here tonight, so I'm going to bring them on, and we're going to have a whole lot of fun
royale
together. A battle royale.
Mhm.
We're going to learn a lot. Our first guest today joining us is. Would you like to introduce him? Finish your introduction.
I thought you were bringing on your guest.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, from
from wait.
Second episode back, I Still Hate You. I want to welcome from the Paranormies podcast, Alt Skull. Hello, Alt. How are you?
Hey, is my mic working?
Indeed.
You sound great, my friend.
Awesome. Great. Good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, man. We are very excited to have you. I know that you are pro Flat Earth, from what I understand. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your personal experiences and how you came to that conclusion. And maybe how you go through your everyday life kind of talking to people about this when you believe in it. Because I don't think it's something that gets brought up a lot. But when it is, I'm sure it's kind of a hot topic with people, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll get something out of the way
Please.
first. I don't believe in flat Earth.
Okay.
I know the Earth is flat. I know the Earth is flat because every single measure that we use to calculate what Earth is, that is how we navigate it, how we build on it, how we fly, how we navigate the ocean, how maps are made, are all created using flat Earth measurements. So the belief side of it is actually the heliocentric people. These are the people who have a religious belief, and I don't need a belief. I can measure the Earth, and it's going to be flat every single time.
You're confident your science is the science, I guess is what you're saying.
Well, it's not even science, right? Because science is something where you observe a phenomenon and then you test the phenomenon. But there's no testing a shape, right? It's just an observation.
So your chartography is the chartography.
It is. All maps are flat. The globe itself is based on flat Earth measurements. So I don't know if you guys want to get right into that or you want to talk about
I'm going to introduce our second guest. I'm going to bring him in, and we're gonna get to all of this tonight. We're gonna have a fun, healthy roundtable. Cardiff, please introduce your guest.
Yeah. So as I said, this next guest, I believe I first was the first experience I had with the flat Earth phenomenon, syndrome, theory, fact. Again, we're not judging tonight. We're gonna find out we're gonna find the answers tonight, Vinny. But the Netflix, Amazon Prime documentary Behind the Curve from the @Sargent YouTube channel, with a couple more subscribers than we have over here on Rumble, if you don't mind me saying, Vinny. Over 105,000 subs over there. @Sargent, Flat Earth Army Captain, I believe.
Let's just say Flat Earth Advocate. How about that?
Okay. You were
Mark Sargent's coming on. Holy moly!
And by the way, man, I don't know why you think you need me, Mr. Skull here. Is it what is it, Alt Skull? Alt Skull. He's preaching. He's going to church with this. He's saying all the right things. So
have you met before? Have you two met?
No.
We're bringing two giants of the flat Earth community together tonight on Subreddit Surfing here on Rumble exclusively. It's amazing.
Well, it really is a pleasure to have you, Mark. I know you've put your beliefs out there to a lot of different places. We were just talking to Old Skull. I believe you heard it. How do you go through your everyday life with people knowing you from YouTube and stuff like that as the flat Earth guy? Do a lot of people try to challenge you and argue with you?
Sure. Why wouldn't you? Everybody in Alt Skull knows all this stuff backwards and forwards. Probably some of the stuff better than me. Everybody challenges it right off the bat. In fact, one of our T-shirts reads, "I became a flat earther because I tried to disprove it or debunk it or whatever you want to call it." Everybody starts out in the negative because it is the only conspiracy, if you want to call it that we teach to children. Right? We don't teach children about any other fill-in-the-blank conspiracy, but when you're in a kindergarten, first grade, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we used to think the Earth was flat, but now it's a globe, and here's this little spinny blue toy we're going to put in the corner of your classroom. We're going to leave it there for 12 years. And that conditioning, I mean, that's top dollar. CIA pays top money for that sort of conditioning. And when you graduate from high school, by that time you're cooked, for the most part. And so, yes, everybody pushes against it. Everybody.
Well, shows what you know, Mark. I didn't retain shit from high school. So,
but you remember the globe in your class?
It was in there.
See, it was there. You knew it was,
All right.
It was in there. And you don't even have to bring it up again. They just put it in the corner of the classroom and let kids spin it every once in a while when they're bored.
Fair enough.
But yeah, everyone tries to push against it, and the community, which is why we have such a high retention rate. Because I don't tear down the globe. I don't convince you or persuade you. I just put the idea in your head. You have to do your own research, and you're the one that has to tear it down yourself. So if you're the one that ends up going to the flat Earth on your own, how can you rebuild it? You can't. It's sort of the red pill, blue thing, which is why we mention the Matrix so many times.
See, here's what can I interject
go ahead.
Because you said something interesting to me, and again, we're just having conversations tonight, but I've never liked the approach to something like this where you have to go do your own research because, I'm hearing from Old Skull, there's no debate in this. It is what it is. All these maps are made this way. Why do I have to go learn that? Can't somebody just show me?
And we do. We've got. I mean,
Okay.
come on. I've been doing this now for 9+ years, and there is 9+ years of content out there from all sorts. You don't have to do your own research. I could give a grocery list of links for you. You could just watch it and see for yourself. And then if you're still not convinced, then you can go to a body of water or whatever and shoot the laser or do a long distance test or, shoot with a long distance camera and do whatever you want. You don't have to do your own research. Heck with it. Be lazy, man.
Okay.
So
you got it. I will.
Doing your own research, as far as flat Earth is concerned, would involve actually conducting tests on your own. If you try and do your own research by going to the normal search engines, you're not going to get a view of what flat Earth is that's accurate, right? Google's going to take you to all the debunking channels. You've got the anti-flat earthers who actually don't even believe in the globe. They have to come up with their own excuses for why all of the globe problems exist, and then they come up with things like how gravity works and why gravity holds air to a ball and why we never see Coriolis effect in practical application. And so when you do your own research, you're not going to get it on the internet. You're not going to get a fair shake.
As
the
I
algorithms
Sorry. As I search flat Earth right now in YouTube, it's giving me a Wikipedia community note. Right under the search.
Let me bring that up really fast. That's us, by the way. The fact that there are now wiki entries underneath videos, you're welcome. That's us. That's why that happened.
Don't be so happy to wear that as a badge of honor. They're so annoying.
No. I remember when the Senate hearing, they did a special Senate hearing in DC, and they were going over when Google bought YouTube, right? They changed some of the rules and they said, okay, there's certain things we're going to flag as just official misinformation, which is a weird term in itself. And because of that, we're going to put a wiki entry to what we think is true underneath those things. And we were the first topic for that to happen. So every pro flat Earth video, if YouTube eventually finds it, puts a wiki link directly under the video where that didn't used to happen. And it is fascinating. And you get the old term, there you go. And you can click on that. It's like, it'll take you to wiki and say, flat Earth's an archaic and scientifically disproven. Oh God. Yeah. All that.
Yeah. So, well,
they don't do that for, they don't do that for.
And again, that's a military term. You don't catch flack unless you're over the target. The fact that Google spent time and made a policy decree to put that in there. Oh yeah. That lets you know. I mean, come on. What other conspiracy can you even say that about? The other ones, it's like, you can bury that in the desert.
COVID.
Are we allowed to even talk about that here?
On Rumble, yes.
Oh, okay, good.
But I think Alt Skull was about to say if you search Round Earth on YouTube, you don't get a community note, and that is absolutely correct. There's no community note on Round Earth.
There's no community note for Bigfoot. There's no community note for gray aliens. There's no community note for reptilians, but you sure as hell get one for flat Earth.
Absolutely, you do.
So it seems to me that they keep putting these out there for things in regards to science.
Yes, science, otherwise known as scientism. because it really is their own religion. When Neil Tyson, one of the only 3 media scientists in the world that anyone ever talks to, Michio Kaku from Japan being one of the others, and Brian Cox from the UK. And when Neil Tyson says science is right whether or not you believe in it, that is one of the most arrogant things I've ever heard outside of Kanye. I mean, that is ridiculous. It's like,
Science is like a flower.
yeah, science. Basically, when we stamp it as science, that's fact. That's something you can count on. It's like, well, yeah, until you're wrong, and then you have to redo it and make a whole new stamp, and they never apologize for it ever.
Oh, okay, I want to bring both you guys kind of to the beginning. I want to find out both of you, like, what brought you to this? What changed? What was the switch? What happened from, yeah, there's the globe in the corner of my classroom, you didn't question it, to holy fuck, there's something going on here. I'm gonna go to Alt first.
You go first.
Yeah.
Alt.
Well, I was actually watching Owen Benjamin, who I'm not a huge watcher of Owen Benjamin anymore, but at the time he was going through the moon landing, and when he did go through that, I noticed, like, wow, this is just, I had suspicions before, but I didn't quite know where to look, and so I started listening to his podcasts on the moon landing and started looking into it on my own, and it was just, you uncover one thing after another, and it just becomes this ridiculous story, to the point that where you look back at it now and you're like, how did I ever believe that in the first place? That's just retarded. And obviously, a lot of the reason that people, when you start to bring up the moon landing being fake, will rail against that is because they can feel in their soul that the next thing is coming. And that's what I understood as well. And so when I first, like Mark said, when I first was confronted with the topic, I pushed back against it as hard as anyone else. But the difference between me and a lot of the other people that you'll encounter is that I didn't have an emotional reaction to it. I just wanted to find out if this was true or not. Mm-hmm. And so people started introducing me to things like curvature tests and laser, over the water tests and things like that. That's really all it took. It didn't take me too long to go, okay, there's no curve, so there's no globe if there's no curve. And you still, at that point, get involved in a lot of what Nathan Oakley, Mark's friends with Nathan Oakley. Nathan Oakley is the guy that I've learned most of my stuff from. What he calls the feast of nonsense. And that would be things that we suspect are true, or maybe inserted into the narrative to make us look crazy, but we can't prove. But later on, I noticed there's all these things that you can absolutely prove. Like there's no Coriolis, gas pressure can't exist without containment, and Earth is measured flat in every single case. And so once I got to that point, it was like, okay, it's no longer a belief. These people on the heliocentric side are the ones with the belief. They're the ones with the religious belief. That's also why they react with such ire, and they get so angry when you bring up something, because you're actually bringing up something that challenges their core fundamental belief that they don't have any logical consistency in. And when you do that, well, it puts them in a state of cognitive dissonance, and it puts them in a state of pain.
Certainly.
They don't like that at all. Yeah.
That's what a lot of beliefs, when challenging anyone's firm beliefs, you get an emotional reaction out of. I think you're correct there.
5 stages of acceptance.
One other thing Mark said was, that we were all on the other side of this first. Like everybody starts off as a heliocentrist because that's what you were indoctrinated into from birth.
What'd you call me?
And so
round earther, bitch.
You can choose to look at the facts that are presented to you and accept them, or you can be an emotional little baby like so many people are now and cry and scream and then try to come up with reasons that the thing that you believe has to be true, that are all excuses that don't actually address the real problems that the model has. So I didn't do
most people don't want to think just in general. So, I mean, you have a challenge out of the gate when your argument is you need to do the research for yourself. But then when you're challenging an actual belief, it makes people not want to learn at that point. Don't you think? Don't you think it just generally turns people off when they feel that uncomfortable?
Yeah. They feel pain. Okay. They feel pain.
Yeah. All right.
Cognitive dissonance is pain. And just like Mark said, like people don't want to think. Thinking is much harder than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
Actually thinking, because you have to deal with things that you hold at your core that cause a lot of fear. And like one of the arguments, quote unquote, that people always give you if they can't counter the things that you present them is, but why would they lie? And it's like, that's not my responsibility to tell you why they would lie. I don't care. I'm not going to divine the motivations of known liars and ask them why they would lie to me, because they're just going to tell me more lies. I'm just going to go with the facts, and we have a lot of facts when it comes to flat Earth.
Okay. Mark, how about you? When did you first start questioning the globe?
I started questioning it because I was conspiracy bored. I'm older and I never got married and had kids. So by 2014, I pretty much had run the gamut of just about. I have an opinion on just about every conspiracy you can think of. Which, by the way, I was watching some of your aliens or your UFO episode from like a month ago. It's like, oh man, I would have totally chimed in on that one.
Well, actually, that was a couple years ago. Actually, we just re-uploaded. We just
Oh,
started
you
on
re-uploaded
Rumble.
that?
Yeah, Vinny got kicked off of YouTube for doing something stupid.
No,
So
no,
we're over
sir.
here on Rumble now. So we just re-uploaded all our videos there.
Gotcha.
But
Not
we
accurate,
will be
Mark.
revisiting aliens again, because we
Nice.
haven't done that in a while, and we will definitely. I'll have you in the Rolodex now.
Nice. That was a fun one to listen to. So I looked at everything except for flat Earth, and that alone should have been a flag, but because I was like, why haven't I looked at this?
So
thing?
that's 2014. This theory. How long has this theory existed?
Well, it's been around for a long
and
time.
I apologize, old skull. I said theory.
No. It's
okay.
No. It's been around a long time, but the new, we'll call it the Flat Earth 2.0. You know, the social media wave started in 2014 with just a handful of people, and there was not a lot of content out there to look at. There was just a handful of guys that were doing it, like Matt Boylan, Eric Dubay, a couple guys from Europe and stuff like that, and I decided, okay, I'm going to knock it off my bucket list. It's like flat Earth is ridiculous. We all know this. I'm just going to kill it in a weekend.
But I guess what was the genesis of flat Earth? The
original flat Earth?
The original flat, like, is this?
The original flat Earth goes back to ancient times. You want to have fun? Go into Google and type in ancient cosmologies and click on images. Everybody drew the same thing. Everybody drew a snow globe.
I mean, so we're going back to Columbus and
pre-Columbus.
Like, okay.
I mean, it goes back a long, long way, because before the globe model was even introduced, everyone said it was flat. Everybody said it was not only flat, but it had some sort of domed sky, because that's what they observed. It was only much, much later when they rolled out the globe. Way, way later. And again, when they rolled it out, most people still couldn't read or write. So this starts.
Doesn't it?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
I just want to ask you, when you're thinking about these old cosmology, that's what you called it, cosmology?
Yeah, ancient cosmologies, yeah.
Ancient cosmologies, when they're drawing, as you described it, as a snow globe,
right,
which is the model that you see when you start looking up flat Earth and you look up pictures.
Yeah.
Don't you feel like that's just the natural thing you would observe, just like without having the ability to go up and look down?
Well, that's my point. If that's the natural way of observing it, then why did it change exactly? Why all of a sudden it take for the Americans, and by the way, the globe model was introduced way before space flight. In fact, there's a great little quote. Let me do this quote really fast from George Orwell, 1984. And he wrote in 1946, and he wasn't a flat earther, but he was talking about how we've gotten to this age now where science is dictating to people, and people are just believing them because they're wearing the lab coats. And which is, they're deferring. It's like, well, he obviously looks smarter than me. He's gone to university and become a PhD in something. He's obviously more intelligent than me. And he said, you go out in the streets and you ask people how they know it's a globe. They will just knee-jerk response. It's like, what are you talking about? We know. It is known. Game of Thrones type thing. It's like, it is known. And then you follow up. It's like, really? How do you know? Then the gears start grinding, and then they realize it's not that they know, they were told. And there's a big difference there. How did everybody in the world in 1946 know that the world was a globe? There was no space program. NASA wasn't even founded until 1958. So how did everybody know? It's because it was something that was fed to their father and their father going back a bunch of generations.
Well, I got to say, I feel a little stupid. Like when I asked the question, like, did this go back to Columbus? It did. I totally forgot that there was a time where this was the standard belief.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
was.
Well,
I
you
just,
know,
I guess I took it for granted that it's always been that way. But yeah,
you know
Sorry.
that the ancient cosmological models were not only based upon observation; they were navigating the oceans using flat Earth angles, and that's the only way
There you
that
go.
you can move from one place to the other and not get lost and
Right.
save your life at sea because you're using the stars. And when you use celestial navigation, you're creating an angle, and the angle is from your position to a star in the distance, and this star can often be thousands of miles, literally thousands of miles in the distance. For example, if you're at the equator, Polaris is at the horizon, right? And as you
obvious.
move north, Polaris appears to raise in altitude. It appears to go up, but it's just the angular appearance of it moving up. And you use that angle to calculate your position, right? So the latitude lines that we put on the globe, the way that the globe, or I said globe, that we put to map the Earth, the latitude, well, they are on the globe now,
Right.
but they came from flat Earth angles. So
Right.
that angle, that when you're at the equator, that angle from Polaris, you're taking the ground position of Polaris and you're drawing a baseline all the way to yourself, 5,000 or however many miles away it is, right? Or 3,959 miles or whatever for the radius of the Earth.
Right.
But that angle requires a flat baseline. You know, if there was a curve, you wouldn't be able to use the measurements to get you around the Earth. And all of these angle measurements to stars, they all have flat baselines, and they're used to map the territory. They're used to create the latitude lines that we have that are the basis of the map. So that ancient cosmological conception of the Earth, the dome over the top of it also, you could say, well, gas pressure requires containment, so there has to be some sort of containment. And I think the dome is more based upon observation and perspective, because the sky is actually flat too. You know, if you have a star in the distance from your position and you take an angle to that star, let's say it's 45 degrees up, and then you teleport yourself to the ground position of the star, you know, however many hundreds or thousands of miles in the distance it is, then you look at the next star. That star is another 45 degrees up. Teleport yourself to that one. You're going flat all the way, but the sky is also flat all the way, right? The way that you're using the angle measurement is it just appears because of perspective that it forms a dome over our heads. But if you know, if the dome was like what you could see, it'd be a whole bunch of little bubbles over, you know, over you. The dome would have to be much actually bigger than what you can see.
Okay, so this is very hard to visualize. I'm
Oh, you want something?
Nice.
sure. What do you?
There you
well,
go.
there it is.
There you go. Little model that
Well,
Chris Pontius made for me a long time. So for those people that don't know what's on screen here, what you're seeing is you're looking at some
full
sort of
screen and video.
the what?
I'd be glad to.
A domed structure where the North Pole is in the center. No, that's you.
Yeah. I
Take
know.
that
Sorry, buddy.
down.
There we go. The North Pole's in the center, and the continents, for more or less, are splayed out, and they reach out around organically around the outside, and they're basically the same shape, with the exception of Antarctica. Antarctica is missing on this, so Antarctica isn't a snowy continent about the same size as Australia. It is a massive, massive continent that holds the water in, which forms a big ring all the way around. And which is coincidentally enough, Antarctica is a very unusual continent, even by scientist standards, which is, they say the average height of the continent is about 14,000 feet. Well, that's amazing because the altitude sickness kicks in at 7,000 feet on average. So why is it so high? Well, it's got to keep the water in. So there you go.
Well, now, and how was that map created?
Oh, this map is actually not that much different. Oh, I'm sorry. This map, officially, you can look it up. It's called the azimuthal equidistant map. I'm not going to spell it for you right off the head, but you'll be able to look it up. Azimuthal equidistant map, and that map was made a long time ago, and it's currently one of the major map projections. It's considered a legitimate map projection, right? It's also, by the way, the UN flag. If you want to look that up, the UN flag is identical to this. That's fine. The azimuthal is fine, but when you say, "Oh no, it's also the flat Earth map," people say, "Oh no, that's crazy." It's like, really? Because it's the UN flag. Even though, you know what's missing on the UN flag when you look it up? Antarctica. Antarctica is not on the UN flag. This massive continent, which is not owned by anybody, and instead of Antarctica on the UN flag, it has these wreaths that go around the outside. It's like, why'd you leave out an entire continent? Well, because we don't want people to go down to Antarctica.
All right, I have a question then.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you saying that the reason it would seem to be the reason why they would make that their flag is to hide in plain sight,
Yep.
kind of a deal?
Yep. Absolutely. Why wouldn't
Okay.
you? And again, the little things. Antarctica is been off limits. Look up something. I'm going to hit you with a bunch of stuff for as long as I've got you. The Antarctic Treaty, which was ratified in 1959, which said that nobody, no corporation or country can set up shop in Antarctica forever. And this was made in 1959, and it expires in 2040, which you say, well, it's not that far from now. Well, it was back then. And it's like, you're telling me that no corporation, we'll just use oil and gas, for example. Oil and gas, especially in the United States, we can start fracking in your neighbor's backyard tomorrow if we want. It just takes a briefcase of money and some shady people to do it, right? But these companies, these same oil and gas companies, can't even talk about going to Antarctica. Can't even broach the subject. You're not going to see full page ads in the New York Times saying, oh, how great it would be to create jobs and economic opportunity in Antarctica. It's locked down. The only people that are down there are military and military scientists. And yes, can you take a trip down there? You betcha. You can spend maybe even $18,000 now, American. Fly down there to the coastline. You can have your picture taken with penguins, and then they'll send you right back. You try to go in the interior on your own, it's your ass. You're not going anywhere. It is absolutely.
Yeah, if you want to do independent exploration of Antarctica, you're allowed to, but you have to get all sorts of permits from the government, and they put so many obstacles in front of you that it makes it, for basically, practically speaking, impossible to go there in the first place. So it's for one of the things you have to do is apply for the permit, which is $250,000, and if the permit is rejected, that money is non-refundable. Yeah. If you do happen to be able to go, you have to do all these things like, for example, you can't use vehicles, right? I don't even think you can use sled dogs. And any trash that you bring, you have to carry it all yourself, bring it back. You have to provide, let's say you're going to travel into the interior of Antarctica, you're not allowed to use a snowmobile, a car, an airplane. You can't fly over it. So
drones were banned in Antarctica after we started firing up in about 2016. It is the only, not to cut you off there real quick, but I want to get this point out. It is the only unbroken treaty in the history of treaties. I mean, come on, America is notorious for breaking treaties. And you're telling me this is a treaty that applies to every nation and it's never even been challenged? No, that is straight up national security where, let's say you're the head of British Petroleum. Some guy goes into your office, it's like, yeah, you think you want to do some oil exploration down in Antarctica. You don't. And if you retire, you're going to hand this card to whoever takes your place, and he's going to give me a call. I'm going to tell him the same thing. Antarctica is bulletproof.
So is across the flat Earth community is there a common theory of what the who is? Like, who are they?
Who's
built the dome? Who put us here? Like, who are they?
Okay. Let me clarify one thing really fast. We didn't build this. We had nothing to do with the building of this. Yes. Whoever built this, you're one of two camps. Either it's an older civilization that's more powerful than ourselves, that hasn't made themselves known, or the divine. But at that point, you're kind of splitting hairs because one man's advanced civilization is another man's deity. So
there's no aliens.
Well, no, you want to say aliens, but at that point, aliens even takes on a different thing, because if this is what it is, then whoever it is outside of here. But we're talking that there is no space. So Mars and Venus and Jupiter, it's like, no, aliens don't come from planets that are way, way off. They're probably from another continent or another one of these, or they may even be stuck in here with us. You know what I mean? Meaning that
Rochester.
There are old civilizations, we all know of them, that have been there over the years. Sunken cities off Japan, sunken cities off of India, Machu Picchu, Pumapunku, and so on and so on and so on, right? We're not the first people to rent this apartment. The question is...
Pumapunku?
Pumapunku?
Oh,
come on, you guys have heard of that.
No, I know her.
Yeah, whatever. The ruins...
Second album rules.
Bimini Road, the real pyramids, the Bosnian pyramids. We're not the first people to rent this apartment. So whoever built it, they're not us. Not no way, no how.
Sure. We had a couple comments from viewers tonight. and they were saying that Mr. Beast spent 50 hours in Antarctica. Is that true?
Yeah, he probably did. I mean,
Probably did, but
yeah.
come on, Mr. Beast. You know what? I'm gonna let me take 30 seconds to do a quick Mr. Beast rant. Mr. Beast, if you
Please.
guys don't know who he is the biggest
Shots fired. Let's go.
biggest
Start a war
YouTube-
right on this show. Full screen. Let's go.
biggest YouTube
Hold on.
channel
I gotcha.
in the world with 300 million subs. It has nothing to do with him, right? With Jimmy Donaldson, right? It took me a while just to memorize that name, right? It has nothing to do with him. Mr. Beast channel. You want to know, and the 300 million subs, they're not paid, they're not bought. They are real subs. Why? Because it's a gambling channel for kids. That's all it is. Because he gives away
Awesome.
stuff. That's all he does, which is like, oh, hey, buy my candy bar. And in that candy bar might be a lottery ticket that might win some great stuff, right? And so the kids subscribe in mass and they're afraid to unsubscribe because they're afraid of missing the live giveaways. That's all he's doing. They're not live giveaways. You're buying something for the chance to win something else. He's just raking in it. He is skirting the line of everything that is gambling, and it has paid off really well. But he's being sued now by everybody and their mother. So yeah,
Well, he's definitely supported by this entire system,
Yes.
the same system that
absolutely.
brought us COVID and brought us the religion of science and brings us degeneracy in all forms everywhere. And he's not necessarily openly degenerate, but everything that his channel supports is everything that the
Absolutely.
system loves. It's like the new answer to MTV.
And it's not even him. I mean, I'm not shy about saying, look, Mr. Beast, if he's ever listens to this or any of his friends, a monkey could do his job. Literally. There is
Name
no
was Jimmy,
what?
just like our Jimmy.
Yeah, there
dare
you
ya.
go. Yeah, Jimmy, you're not the same Jimmy, but yeah, there's that channel. It
Oh,
drives
we
me
know
nuts.
he's not the same.
He's not the
we
same
know.
Jimmy, but he is. But it just drives me nuts that it's like this channel has gotten so huge and it's just preying upon the gambling habits of kids. It's like, are you kidding? That's like shooting fish in a barrel. It's too easy. And to Alt's point is like, yeah, he's part of the machine. When you get to that level, they'll help you. It's like, oh yeah, let's make him an icon. Oh, whatever. Hope you get sued into the ground, man. Can't wait to watch it happen.
So I just want to make this clear to anyone at the CIA. I am totally ready and willing to sell out.
Are you doing the Joe Rogan line right there?
No, I just
Oh, you
say
didn't know he did that?
He did
No.
that.
He
Yeah.
did that for real. He went on air on one of his shows, and somebody was telling him during the show, "Oh yeah, CIA absolutely hires celebs," and he didn't miss a beat. He turned to camera. And he's going, "Guys, if you're listening, I'm totally in it." What was the line he used? He was like, "I'll sell my mother to get what you guys
Yeah.
need."
I'll tell you what. I will not sell my mother. I'll give you Jimmy.
And look what happened to him. Not only did he get a brand new show on the Sci-Fi Channel called
Holy shit, they took me up on it.
called Joe Rogan Questions Everything, but then he became the biggest podcast in the world. It's like, really? Joe Rogan? Come on, I watched his career arc. It wasn't that great. And he
Yeah,
became,
Joe
I mean,
Rogan
he was-
is Mr. Beast for millennials.
there you go. There you go.
Okay.
And right before he said that, he was questioning the moon landing, and right after he said that, all of a sudden he completely flip-flopped.
Yeah.
And I think now that it's becoming, I think what's happening now is the moon landing. I think they're going to give it away. I think they're going to give up on the moon landing and say, you know what, you guys can have that one as long as you continue to believe in space.
Maybe.
And so we're going to get this narrative because now Joe Rogan is questioning the moon landing again.
Yeah.
basically.
Well, yeah. During the comedy special, I'm sure you saw that. Guy took a crack at me.
No.
It's like, really?
Did
It's
he?
like during his last thing, he said, yeah, if a grown man is, has a flat Earth documentary made about him, he's effing retarded. And it's like, are you serious, dude? So I had to shoot a thing off. It's like, come on, don't have to.
Yeah, he's not going to give you that one. He'll give you the moon landing, but he's not going to give you that one because they need the heliocentric religion to stay in place because it's such an amazing system of control, keeping you believing that you're this tiny, insignificant speck of dust on a speck of dust in a speck of dust in this vast, unfathomable universe that's so big, that's so filled with stars and galaxies and other objects that you can't even begin to imagine the number that it would take to describe it. And so
Right.
they'll give you the moon landing, and I think what we're going to see soon is they're gonna say, "Oh yeah, we totally went to the moon, but we had to fake the footage because it was too difficult."
Right.
We
Yeah.
actually went to space.
Oh, I've already
Well,
heard that. I've already
you
heard
go.
people.
yeah, that's
say
the new
that.
one. They're
Yeah.
starting to insert. There was a movie. They just made a movie, and before I saw the plot of the movie, I predicted exactly what it was going to be, which was like, "Yeah, we went to the moon, guys. Trust us, bro. Wink, wink, wink." But we had to fake the footage, and it's
Right.
like,
Right.
they need
Yeah,
space to remain real.
with Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum. And
Yeah.
but sorry, what message for you guys, real quick, the hosts, which is, do you have a, your first reaction when I say, oh yeah, by the way, since the Americans in 1972, no one's even attempted to go to the moon, and that's 1972, mind you. That's a long time ago. Why? What
Don't-
happened?
Isn't China on the moon or trying to get to the moon?
Not with people.
Not with people.
Oh yeah, you want to send rovers and conjure up some Photoshop? That's fine. You can do that all day long. But people is a whole different thing. That is way tougher to fake. So where I told people some years ago, I go, it's true. I mean, I actually don't blame them. I go, if a dump truck of money backed up to my house and they said, hey, we'll give you the whole truck if you can help us fake the next moon mission, I'd be like, get the hell out of here. There's no way I couldn't do it. There's too many production mistakes. All it takes, as you guys know, is one to blow.
I'd take a look at the contract, Mark. I would take a look at the contract before I said no so quickly, because
Okay, if you pull it off, you're a hero and you get all the money. If you don't, well, a black site. How's that?
So now that,
Pass.
so how does this change now that, like, Elon Musk, I've seen Elon Musk in the chat is going into space. So it's not NASA anymore. It's not
Okay.
the government covering it up. I guess is Elon Musk in on it as well?
Let me wind up a little bit on this one. Because Elon is one of my pet projects. Elon, when he came on the scene back in 2017 with the Dear Moon project, right, where he said, you guys probably don't even remember, where he was like, oh, I'm going to send some YouTubers, some content makers, I'm going to send them in a space bus around the moon in 2018. They're not going to land, but they're going to go around the moon in 2018. And all these content creators are like, oh my God, I'm going to the moon, right? Never happened. It just got canceled this year, finally, after quietly. It's never even started, never even got kicked off. Elon Musk is a freaking puppet for our government. That's all he is. Most people don't even know he's freaking South African. He all he does, and I've had people, it drives me insane, like Fox News is like, he's arguably the smartest man in the world. It's like, what is that based on? He engineers nothing. He was a computer programmer, and I use that term loosely. Back in the day, he got on the PayPal IPO, and then he bought companies, and then the U.S. government pumped up his stocks to unbelievable levels, to where apparently Tesla is the most valuable car company in the world. Okay, how does that happen? He promises
Have you seen the Cybertruck?
they don't even have handles.
The
They're
Cybertruck,
stupid.
the Cybertruck will go down as one of the worst vehicles ever in automotive history, ever. And
It's dumber than the Pontiac Aztec.
I'll give you one more. You remember, if you're a Simpsons fan, right? The Homer, the car that Homer built in 1991, right? That car, that car was more functional and had better features than this car did, and that car was a literal cartoon joke back in 1991. This car,
you give me the Canyonero any day.
Canyonero.
Yeah, there you go. It was horrible. Elon, every promise he's ever made, and people just drive me. It's like, oh no, he's the richest man in the world and he's the smartest man in the world. It's like, where the hell? So when SpaceX came along, right, and it's like, okay, well, that's a government project because they're launching off of government pads, right? They're using NASA facilities. There's direct competition to NASA, and yet it's, oh no, we're just going to let him launch. Why would you let him launch? He's cutting into your budget at bare minimum. Oh God.
Does he pay?
He's absolutely. They don't do anything. They don't go to the moon ever. The ISS is a freaking look at the interior. The interior.
So it's all a facade. Like, it's all just for show.
I've had people say, okay, the moon mission is a piece of crap, but you can't tell me that the ISS is fake. And I go, you don't know the rules of crime at all. If you're gonna fake one thing, you gotta fake it all, because the punishment's the same if you get caught. Just you say, okay, we faked the moon, but the ISS is real. It's like, you think people are going to care? They're not going to care.
But I can destroy all of the arguments right now.
Please.
Go ahead.
Most of what if you, like, one of the primary arguments, quote unquote, from the globe side will be like, well, we have pictures from space. Well, the ISS. Well, how would they fake the footage? Blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well, space is fake. How do I know that? We live on the Earth. We breathe air.
Correct.
And the way that air works, the way that gas law works, is that it expands in all directions to fill the volume of its containment. So if people are going up in a tuna can and passing the Kármán line and going into space where they need a spacesuit, which is a contained environment, so that the air inside their spacesuit will not expand into the quote-unquote vacuum of space, the 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum of space, but they can look back at Earth and see high-pressure gas, which is not affected by gravity, just sitting there. That's fake. We require containment.
Yep.
Gas fills space. So if the air we breathe is under pressure, then that gas pressure requires a container to push upon. Now, I don't know what the container is necessarily, but until you can show gas pressure existing without containment, the entire heliocentric universe is a violation of the second law of thermodynamics and gas law. Yeah. Gas expands in all direction at high velocity to fill the volume of its containment. And no, gas is not affected by gravity. And no, things don't always go down. Actually, lots of things go up. Clouds are up. Hot air balloons go up.
But hold on. But if I'm gonna try and word this so it makes any kind of sense. But if your argument is that the science you've always been taught is wrong when it comes to the map, and why couldn't that science also be wrong that you were taught?
Because we weren't the ones that came up with the original science, meaning we didn't create the laws of thermodynamics. To Alt's point,
but somebody who believed
the laws of thermodynamics, laws of thermodynamics describe phenomena that happen always, everywhere, in every single case.
Right. So, and that's the thing; those are like natural laws. So it's kind of hard to say anybody invented them.
There's not one example.
But if somebody invented the nature that we're in, right? Like, wouldn't?
Yeah, but okay. But practically speaking, there's not one example of natural law being violated.
Let me give you a quick real world example for your.
Well, except the law that we're living in a dome.
Well, okay, so the pressurized gas that we're breathing. Let me break it down really fast for you guys. So we're breathing in barely even oxygen. It's 20% oxygen and 80% nitrogen. We'll just ignore the trace gases for now, right? And which means, but you can't see it. It's 99.9% transparent, so you can't see it, right? Let's say there was a vacuum chamber above you. If you guys don't know what a vacuum chamber is, it's an area where there's nothing. There's no gas at all. There's no nitrogen, there's no oxygen. And the law of thermodynamics says that gas must equalize. And we're talking instantly. It is not like the movies. It's very violent. It's very fast. And there's some wonderful submarine videos and deep sea diving videos and oil pressure things which show it. So if there was a vacuum chamber above you with a valve and you pull it, right, and you pop that valve, the air in your room is going to rush upstairs and it's going to equalize in a fraction of a second. It's absolutely not like the movies. Hollywood does that for dramatic effect, but everyone dies in the movies constantly, and the movies are really way shorter. So that air goes upstairs. The question is, when you walk outside, why isn't the air that's around you outside, why hasn't that been sucked in by the greatest vacuum chamber of all time, which is space? Instantly. Why is our atmosphere still here? And your only reaction, the only thing you can say is gravity. Because that's it. That's the only answer everyone's got. Gravity is the cure-all for everything. It's like, gravity? Oh, you mean the same gravity that was in your living room that couldn't keep the air from going upstairs? The very same gravity is holding everything down. And I've had physicists...
hot air rises.
Oh, so it goes up.
Aha!
So it goes up.
That's the only science I know.
Now
is a good time to use it.
But to Alt's point, it's called air pressure for a reason. You can't have pressure without some sort of container. And you say, well, with water, that's the same thing. Water has weight, and there's lots more water pressure when you get down to lower levels. And when you get up towards the surface, there's hardly any water pressure at all. But it's there.
Density.
Yeah, there you go. Density and buoyancy. It's a thing. Real quick, Alt and I may disagree on the whole gravity thing. Maybe, I'm not sure. Which is but I do agree with his point, which I know he'll say, which is gravity is a theory, which is even science. Neil deGrasse Tyson, which I love bringing him up because the man drives me nuts. Which is he said multiple times. It's like, yeah, gravity. We have no idea what it is. We can't tell you what it is. We can tell you what it does. We can tell you the symptoms of gravity. We can't reproduce it in a lab. And if you can't reproduce something, you don't really know what it is. It's a mysterious molecular force that pulls things down to the center of a ball. It's like, okay, but that's just a theory, right?
That's only even one theory of gravity.
Right.
Like that's Newton's gravity, and then that was superseded by Einstein's gravity, which is what we've had for 109 years or something like that.
Right.
They have
Which I don't
different
like
gravities?
bringing up because most people can't wrap their head around that one.
Well, they teach Newton's gravity up to high school, and then they
Right.
switch over if you get into the higher levels, and they teach you Einsteinian gravity, which is the bending of space-time. But that's not even a force. And people like Brian Cox will admit, Neil deGrasse Tyson will admit that gravity is not a force at all. And gas is not affected by gravity at all. There is density. You can have tungsten hexafluoride that will sit in the bottom of a box. But again, a box is containment. And given enough time, the tungsten hexafluoride is going to dissipate into the air around the box, which is the larger container of whatever room you're in. And air, again, gas expands in all directions to fill the volume of its containment. So if the volume of containment was the infinite blackness of space, then the air we're breathing would expand to fill it immediately, and we'd all be dead. The first air particle that was ever created would not stay on Earth. It would fuck off into space.
Yep.
Never to return, and we would never even achieve gas pressure in the first place. So there's no space. There's no space. Sorry, guys. There's something up there. There's a sky.
Okay. Hold
Vinny,
on.
there's got to be a fucking dome.
There you go.
Well,
Carter,
there's something. There's some kind of containment. Yeah.
Convinced.
It has
I
to
have
be.
a big question.
Yeah.
Here's my question. Okay, let's say we're going for the dome. We agree there's a dome. Let's just say
There
that.
must be.
What would be on the other side of the dome?
I don't know.
Nobody knows. For me, it'd be some sort of. I've theorized over the years that it's got to be the opposite of what this world is. So if this world is 99.9% conflict, meaning it doesn't matter how rich, how powerful, how beautiful, how talented you are, you always have something to complain about. We're always in a state of some sort of conflict. Then what's outside of this place has to be 99% unlimited. Of course, that may be me being an optimist. Who knows? It could be a dark matrix dystopia out there for all we know. But we don't know because nobody's left and come back and told the tale. So,
Like, are we being farmed for something? Are we being?
I mean, if you want to go down the dark way, you could say that, but I think it's more of a school than anything else. I mean, it feels. Some people say, "Oh, it's like a prison planet." It's like, yeah, but it's pretty nice for a prison planet. It works just well without people. You go to regions where there aren't any people, it seems to be working just fine. It doesn't feel necessary. It's obviously not necessarily an entertainment center because there's lots of people that aren't having fun. So I kind of treat it
But
like
the rest of us laugh at them. So
there you go. I treat it kind of like school, where school's fun sometimes. Most of the time, you're there to learn something. It feels like when I'm walking around, I'm here to learn and figure out what's what, and try to take every day as. But to that point, I do believe there are like with a lot of systems, there are a lot of non-people. Because if you built something like this, you'd have some people in here, like an NPC type, that would. I mean, anybody that knows anything about world development, you populate it with a whole bunch of NPCs first before you put any real people in there.
But even like the Matrix, weren't they using the people for fuel? Like they were energy.
They were.
Like I always go down the road of you watch these National Geographic documentaries and there's these tiniest of little fish, but the only thing they do is eat the shit of another fish.
There you go.
And become food for another fish, and up the chain you go till you get to us and whatever. Like what's eating our shit? I guess, or what are we producing that something else needs, like that we're doing for someone else? Like
that is a huge question. I'll defer to why we'll just use the God thing. What would an ancient civilization or a god want to do with something like this? I've always been a big believer that the universe partially runs off of novelty, which is what's new, what's happening.
We're a toy.
I mean, there was not to use a South Park reference because I rarely get to. There was an episode years ago called Earth Canceled, where the Earth was just a TV show, a giant reality show for an advanced civilization. And when we got boring, that's when they started shaking things up. Who knows? For me, I believe we're here to learn perspective. And could there be another civilization on top of this one that learns? Yeah, why wouldn't there be? I firmly believe there are other civilizations that have been here before us and they'll be here after us. And do they get something out of it? Sure. Why not? Why wouldn't you? We're an interesting group. I mean, our civilization really hasn't become super interesting until the last 150 years, give or take, the modern era.
So in terms of flat Earth and the concept of space aliens,
yeah,
you would have to say that they would not be the space alien type. They would be more like the extra dimensional type
At minimum,
alien.
they could be extra dimensional. They could be subterranean.
There
they
you
could
go.
be, like Mark said earlier, they could be on some other island that is not on the maps that we're given in some other territory.
So wait, subterranean, so below us?
Go ahead.
Like,
sorry.
You said subterranean, like below us. So what's below us?
Well, I mean,
I don't know, but there's a lot of evidence that underground there are massive civilizations that exist. And,
the Hollow Earth dovetails pretty well into this, which was it does not take. I mean, think of our civilization. We live between most of our civilization lives between sea level. See what I did there? Sea level, and 1 mile up. So if you had a subterranean civilization that was even with a ceiling of 50 miles, standard airplanes cap out at less than 10 miles. Spy planes 20, give or take, maybe a few things on balloons above that, but it wouldn't take much to do it. And again, that would kind of tie into the school theory, which is every class, a civilization treated like a graduating class, right? Where once they're done, eventually we're going to cap out too. I mean, we've been going 5,000 years unbroken, maybe a few more thousand if you include the broken stuff. Eventually, I think whoever built this place is going to come in and is like, all right, you guys are done. You got to move off to another thing. Again, like a senior class. You don't have to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here and move you off. And the only rule there is you're not allowed to engage directly with the civilization that's on the world, which is why when you get the big UFO sightings, I think there are some rules that are broken. You guys have covered it, and I don't know if I can't remember. I didn't watch the whole thing on the UFO thing, but the biggest UFO sighting in history, as far as I know, was the 1561 Nuremberg event, which has got its own wiki page, and where two giant aircraft carriers were flying over Nuremberg, Germany, and hammered at each other for an hour. It was glorious. And I think they were totally breaking. Sorry, go ahead.
There's enough evidence on UFOs sightings and abductions that something is definitely going on, but they're not coming from outer space because that's not possible.
No, I watched them for years with night vision goggles in Colorado. Years. Somebody told me, it's like, get some night vision binoculars, start looking at the freaking sky, going, get out of here. And I did. And I was like, what am I looking at exactly? And the sky is crawling. It was like they live crawling with stuff. And nobody knows they're even up there because, again, great little punchline is UFOs work just fine like cars when their headlights are turned off. They don't want to be seen. They just turn the lights off unless they have a cloaking device, which is they probably use during the day. It's brilliant.
Also, Hollow Earth works a whole lot better on flat Earth than it does on the globe Earth.
Yes.
See, because I was about to ask you about Hollow Earth because
you see that Kong versus Godzilla, the first movie. That was a great movie, by the way. And there was so much conspiracy candy in it. But when they got to the Hollow Earth part and they had to do like 2 different gravities and an upside down part that you could jump through,
it got a little.
This is just dumb. Like all you have to have is a massive subterranean cave system in flat Earth.
Obviously.
Hollow Earth has been around for quite a while. In fact, one of our guys, Admiral Byrd, the youngest admiral in the history of the United States Navy, he practically reinvented the whole Hollow Earth concept because he was the first man to fly to the North Pole.
Right.
And supposedly he went into an opening and found it and all. But what was weird was, again, was how I got into it, was when I thought, it's like, oh, okay, as I'm reading the story, it's like, oh, so Admiral Byrd's going to spend the rest of his life going to the Arctic and back. The Navy then directed him to Antarctica, and that's where he spent the rest of his life, literally flying around for 30 freaking years in Antarctica. And that made sense when you look at the flat Earth model, which is, okay, whatever they were thinking they were going to find at the North Pole, they found. It's like, okay, if that's right, then the flat Earth map is probably right, which means we need to map out the outer markers. And so they flew him out, and he was just flying his own expeditions for 30 years in Antarctica up until Operation Deep Freeze during 55 to 56. And then he died shortly afterwards because, in my opinion, because I saw him on television, he wouldn't shut up about it. He was one of those explorers that even though he was a military man and a high-ranking official, He liked his interviews too much. He liked his it's
So-
like, oh, how am I talking about it?
So he passed suddenly, is your point?
Yes, he died. So, well, not suddenly and unexpectedly, collapsed during fill in the blank here, and then everyone was baffled. Nothing like that.
Got it.
But he died suddenly.
Is every airline pilot in on this, or
No.
is there?
No,
Airline pilot. Okay, can I say something about being in on it?
Please.
Very, 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 very few people are quote unquote in on it, because you don't have to be in on it because of the way that the entire system is set up in the first place. As Mark said at the very beginning, we're indoctrinated literally from birth into the globe heliocentric religion with the mobile put over your child's head when he's in the crib still with the little planets and the stars, and then you get into school and you learn the globe model in the heliocentric universe and all of these things. So it gets to the point where people are like, okay, this is just how it is. And to their credit, the globe model, like, it's got some amazing mathematics, the way they've made it work so like such a fine-tuned clock, but all of the mathematics are based upon flat Earth measurements in the first place. You can't get to any of the globe measurements without the flat Earth, and the genesis is all from the flat Earth. But because of that, because it does seem to work so well, and because if you do speak out against it, like some of us do, you're going to get immediate backlash. You're going to get painted with the brush. Oh, you're a conspirator. Oh, you're a flat earther. Oh, you're a retard. And you're going to get that social shame from the hive mind that automatically kicks in the second that you even bring up the moon landing. For the most part, most people aren't going to talk about it. But if you talk to most airline pilots, and here's an interesting thing. When you fly a plane, the nose, the attitude of the plane, the pitch of the plane, that's the way that the plane is positioned with respect to the horizontal plane over which it flies. In order to achieve lift, the nose needs to stay above the horizon. Above the horizon is the apparent apparent line in the distance,
Right.
but above level, right? Again, like Mark said, level. And we now have pitch data that proves that over long distance flights, the nose never noses down. Now, if you are on a globe, you're going to have to nose down to retain your altitude, right? Otherwise, you're just going to fly off into quote unquote space. Yep. But we have pitch data. It's Nathan Oakley's been talking about it recently. Over 1,000 miles, 2 hours, 500 miles an hour, over 1,000 miles, where the nose stays perfectly just above level the entire time. And when pilots fly, they know what they're doing. They know that they're not nosing down. There's tons of videos on YouTube of people asking pilots, like, do you nose down? And the pilots, no. Do you operate as if over a flat Earth? Yes. There's NASA documents that say, Mark probably knows exactly what I'm talking about and can cite the exact document. But there's literal NASA documents. Remember, NASA's not just a space agency. They're the National Aeronautics and Space Agency or Association or whatever it is. Yeah. So there's literal NASA documents that say that when flying or when operating over these long distances, the Earth is treated as stationary and flat. Yeah. So these guys aren't in on it necessarily. They just, a lot of these guys probably are just like, okay,
they don't overthink it. They just read it.
They probably believe in the globe, but they just don't think about it that much.
Hey,
or they don't talk about it.
Let me have Alt include one more thing. Alt, are you comfortable talking about the emergency flights at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, me? Oh, like when they have to land.
Yeah, one of the things that catches which convinces pilots, and we've picked up on it, because again, you can't hide certain things. Let me just jump in, which is the emergency landings, which is when a plane is supposed to go from one place to another. Eventually, the law of averages says somebody's going to have an emergency on a plane. Either a woman's going to have a baby, which they shouldn't be up there in the first place.
Drunk pees on someone or whips it out.
Exactly.
And they definitely don't belong in the cockpit.
Right? Yeah, something goes wrong, and you have to divert to the quickest airport that you can. And there was one of our guys made a thing called, I think it was called 16 emergency landings, where he was pointing out that when this happens, the airport that if it's a globe, should be going right here. And instead, they divert to a place that does not make any sense whatsoever. And it has nothing to do with landing permissions. I'll give you just one off the top of my head, which is they were flying from, I think, the Philippines to Los Angeles. And they were going to go across, they were going to go right by Hawaii, right? They hadn't quite gotten there yet. Woman has an emergency, not a medical emergency, but just a general emergency. And they all of a sudden divert to freaking Anchorage. It's like, what are you talking about, Anchorage? It's like, that's not the place you want to go to land for a medical emergency.
Right.
Hawaii's got all sorts of fun doctors and hospitals, but they diverted to Anchorage. And when you look on a flat map, then you take their flight pattern and you put it, you draw the line. Oh no, the plane was almost right next to freaking Anchorage, not within visible distance, but but that was the one they were going to go to. And this happens time and time and time again. And it's like, that only would, and you're saying, well, what's the point? The point is that only makes sense on a flat map. There are too many flight paths that on a globe, take these huge V's or upside down V things. But if you take the same track and you put it on a flat map, it's a shallow dog leg, if not a straight shot. And it happens time and time and time again. And pilots, to Alt's point, pilots know this. We have a whole bunch of pilots in our pocket, whole bunch. But most of them can't say anything because they'd be treated the same way as if they said, "Oh yeah, UFO followed me for the last 2 hours." That doesn't go well. We've had pilots
literally lose their job as well.
Lose their job.
Yeah. So they're not gonna just go and expose.
Wait, one more real quick. I was flying home from Iceland to Seattle. And I remember that, this is just a quick example, I'm not going to name the guy. And I land in Seattle and I'm waiting in customs and a pilot comes up to me. He goes, "Hey," he goes, "love your work. Can I get a selfie?" Right? And it's like, I took a selfie and it's like, "Yeah, man, wonderful, great." And he didn't take me over to get introduced to the other pilots, right? I could tell it was just him, right? But he goes over, it's like, and I go, "Who are you?" And he goes, "I flew you here." It's like, sweet, awesome. So anyway.
So I have a couple of questions coming in from viewers. Do you guys mind bouncing a couple of them? Do you have time for it, Skull? To stick around?
Yeah, we'll stick around, man. This is
Surprise
fun.
me if there weren't questions. Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Well, first question is, do snipers shoot on a level plane or do they calculate with curvature?
I shoot. All right. I have shot quite a bit in my lifetime, and there is windage and there is elevation. That's all that there is on scopes. Every once in a while, you'll see somebody on CNN that say, "Oh, he had to take into account the curvature of the Earth or the Coriolis effect, which is the spin of the Earth." That's the more important thing, by the way, if you're talking about snipers. And yet, I've got a whole battery, no play on words there, a battery of subject matter guys on my channel that came to me. I didn't even look them up. Let's see, howitzers, missile instructors, everybody from tank commanders, everybody, all branches of the service, right? And they've all said the same thing. It's like, "Oh yeah, we've heard about the curvature of the Earth and Coriolis effect." It never gets factored into the firing solution, ever. It's just a number on a chart that we just ignore because it doesn't work. In fact, the tank commander guy was the most profound about it. He goes, "Do you know how hard war would be if we had to factor in those things? Like for a tank, a moving vehicle, it's like, dude, we line it up, we go distance, and we don't even care about wind, right? And then we just fire." And the same thing with cannons. Because what happens is if it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, then up here it's spinning at what, 600, maybe less? And you have to factor that in if that's real. And that's not the case. No firing solution ever takes that into account, ever. In fact, there was a world record sniper shot done, was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year, where they shot 4.4 miles. It was a big lob shot. And they were interviewed several times. Hey, what'd you factor in? Windage and elevation. That's it. If anyone would have factored in the Coriolis effect or the curvature of the Earth, they would have. They didn't. Never happened.
Yeah, here's the thing about Coriolis.
Yep.
You hear this all the time that snipers factor in the Coriolis effect. Okay, first, no, they don't. And second, if they did, somebody would make a Coriolis adjustment tool for a rifle and be making a bundle, and you won't find one anywhere because it doesn't exist. So why would not at least some Chinese guy be making a whole bunch of money off one of those, right?
Right.
But the other part is, let's say somebody factored in Coriolis and there's a Coriolis effect. So Earth is spinning under bullets. Okay, well, it's not spinning under airplanes. All right, and this is actually looks like one of the questions in the chat says
airplanes are just slow moving bullets. Go ahead.
Yeah. Explain why London to New York is shorter than New York to London if the Earth is flat. This is the same concept. Okay, right. And Foucault's pendulum, which needs an electric kickstart to get started. All these things to say that the Earth is spinning under things. If the Earth was spinning under these things, then it would spin under drones and hot air balloons and airplanes, and a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles which in the other direction from Los Angeles to Charlotte, North Carolina would take normally takes about 4.5 hours. It would take an hour and a half because the Earth is spinning under it at whatever the miles per hour is, 800 or 650 miles per hour or something like that.
Okay.
But it's not, because the Earth's not moving.
Yep.
So if the Earth spins under one thing, it spins under all things, and it isn't, because flight times would be reduced. Flight times are not reduced. You have tailwinds and headwinds and those sorts of things that make certain east-west directions go a little bit faster. But it's a complete difference between the Earth is spinning with you one way from east to west, and the Earth is spinning, or from west to east, and the Earth is spinning against you the other way from east to west. That's a completely different situation, and it does not happen anywhere ever. And so Coriolis, it doesn't exist. Sorry.
Hold on. Because every time that happens, like flying east to west, it's always the flight's shorter coming back, but they always say we've got some tailwinds or some headwinds.
Well,
They do.
And
but it's never
never
the destination is moving closer to us, is it?
No.
And by the way, the jet streams we've only noticed in the last couple of years, because they've been setting world records in certain places. We've just now been researching this. Is the jet streams are way faster than we thought. I mean, like 3 times faster than what, depending on where you are. So the tailwind of 110 miles an hour, that'll help you a little bit. Tailwinds of 300, at that point, technically, you're pushing the planes past the speed of sound without breaking the sound barrier. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And it just happens. People and the pilots don't care. All they care about is getting from point A to point B, and nobody dies. And so it is considered unremarkable, other than, because people say, well, why does, it takes so long to get here, but going back the other way, it takes if you use the jet stream map on a flat world, you see it all. And it's like they just go into these jet streams and they don't take into account the map that they're using. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And
okay.
Again, the plane's pitch is above horizontal the entire time. It's above the level the entire time on these flights.
Just for the audience, what Alt was saying there is, when you're flying on a plane and you hit cruising altitude where there's no turbulence at all, it is the smoothest ride ever, right? It is tabletop freaking flat. Your drink doesn't move. I've been on some of those flights. It's been brilliant, right? Smoother than any car. And it's like, what's the point? The point is that when you're a plane flying over a curved surface, that doesn't happen. When a plane noses even 100 feet in any direction, you feel it absolutely instantly. Everybody's hyper aware of it. And yet we don't feel that when we get to cruising altitude. You can see the maps, the layout maps. When a plane gets up to cruising altitude, when it flies, it's flying absolutely. I've got a wonderful video I could send you where it's flying tabletop flat over the United States. What was interesting about that video was the United States below it was tabletop flat. And it's like, when you're talking about, there should be like 22,000 miles of curvature. So why is the raw data on that tabletop flat? It's because it is flat.
Yeah, it is flat. And also, planes can't maintain lift if they have to nose down constantly.
Right.
They have to maintain lift by keeping their nose slightly above level. So you couldn't even fly on a globe Earth.
Nope.
It wouldn't even be possible, at least not these long distances that are cited.
Okay. Next question came in from Dang Lizard. He wants to know, how do you explain the Earth's magnetic field?
What do you want to know specifically? That's a bit broad.
I don't know. That was the way he phrased it. I was just
all right. Okay, no, I'll give you one. Okay, I'll see if I can simplify it. The simple answer is that there is magnetic north. That's it. Meaning compasses point north and they never dominate south. It is one of those little secrets that no one talks about, which is when you remember bar magnet, north and south, right? There should be a north pole and a south. I've got some neo magnets back out there. The magnets, they have a pot, one side, they're polar, right? When you get to the equator, it should really turn into nothing. I mean, navigation should be almost impossible at the equator because the compass is going to be just all screwy. But when you start going below the equator on the globe, it should dominate south. And that's one of the early things I learned years ago when an Australian military guy let me know. He's like, just, magnetic south doesn't exist. It isn't there. And it's brilliant because when you get to Antarctica, and you can look this up, there are videos where kids ask scientists questions in Antarctica. One of their questions is, what happens to the compass in Antarctica? And the scientists be like, yeah, it doesn't do really anything down here. It's gone because there can't be a magnetic south if it's a big ring around the end. Now, they'll take you to a pole, a silver pole that's covered in flags to take a picture. It's like, oh no, this is geographic south. It's like, is it magnetic south? We're not going to talk about that. So short version is magnetic north, and it works brilliant on a flat map. And it works almost the same on a globe map to where you can't tell the difference. Meaning if you're, using north, it's always dominating north. And there's been some wonderful guys that have done tests recently. I don't know if you've seen them, Alt, where when he puts a bar magnet on like the globe, or the flat map, it screws up the compass terribly because you can't have a magnetic south. It absolutely makes it worthless. So there you go, magnetic north only.
So here's my question: this is going to be a very simple, stupid question, but on a flat Earth, how does north, south, east, and west work?
There is, all right, I'm going to steal from David Weiss. David Weiss made this wonderful t-shirt, which is north is in the center and all other points are south. Yeah. So there you go. Every direction you go is south, technically. So there you go. And now the compass is still going to you'll be able to navigate fine.
So that's because of the magnetic north is the center of the Earth.
Magnetic source is the
flat
center
Earth.
of the record player. Yeah.
And so everything else is just south.
Yep, everything else is south. If you could pull it off, if you could have whatever plane bypass GPS and just you've had a pilot crazy enough to go for broke, then no matter what direction he went, again, if he ignored GPS, which was designed by the U.S. military back in the day, then he would eventually run into the coastline of Antarctica, no matter which way.
Even setting magnetism aside, Polaris is also at the north point of where you can go. Yep. And so in celestial navigation, you can use any of the stars, or there's actually stars that mariners use to navigate specifically, because you're not going to use the little tiny ones, but you're going to use the major ones. But with Polaris at the center of north, you use it to go around it, and around it one direction is east, and around it the other direction is west, and away from it is south. And if you imagine, just like if Polaris is directly over your head, you're in the most northernmost position you can get, which would be, for all intents and purposes, the center of what the known territories are for us. Yeah. And then as you move away from it and the star drops on the horizon, that's moving south. And then if you go in a circle around it, either way, that's east and west. Yeah. And that's the same on a globe, actually. Right. There's no difference.
Okay.
Right. Which is why navigation works just fine on the globe. Anyway, go ahead.
Interesting. JT the Bag Slapper wants to know, have they ever asked, it is a great name, have they ever asked the
He's the one who
creators
destroyed my YouTube channel, by the way, but
is he really?
He is.
Go ahead.
JT destroyed your YouTube channel?
It's him. He had me take it down. He reported me.
What?
Ooh.
Do we want to answer his question?
Why are you talking to him? What's his question?
Well, he rumble rants every once in a while, so I guess we should answer his question.
I'm curious.
I think Cardiff is just smearing his good name because that's what Cardiff does.
No, he forced me to upload nudity to my YouTube channel. At gunpoint.
Really?
Because you needed help to do that?
Hey, gunpoint?
Yes, he made me do it.
Okay.
Ask his question. I'm just fucking with him.
All right, Cardiff. Have they ever asked the creators of Microsoft Flight Simulator if they factor in the curve?
No, I don't know who exactly you would ask. Oh, okay. No, let me jump on this one, which is
okay.
From the game development world. I used to be a professional gamer back in the day, and every game that's really been, 99%, I'm sure there's one out there that isn't. 99% of all games made are made on a totally flat enclosed surface, meaning in fact you can look up something called the skybox system. Everything that's drawn in the sky is done with it's not even a dome, it's a box. It's a freaking shoebox on top of a thing. But it doesn't matter if it's Minecraft or GTA or Fortnite or any of that stuff. It's all made on a perfectly flat world. Why? Because programmers are lazy and the people wouldn't notice anyway. So if the general public has never commented, it's like, why didn't you build a curve into the earth, right? Or whatever it is, then why would whoever built this build a curve into the earth? So no, to his point, no, Flight Simulator, no one's going to build in a curve because it's pointless for a programmer to do it. No one's going to notice.
Also,
go ahead.
Well, they use the maps, and
they use maps. Yeah. They're not reinventing the maps.
Yeah, Google Earth Pro is used by Google Earth Pro. This is the one that you pay for, that has all the details and is used by major corporations to build large earthworks projects and buildings upon. So you would need extremely accurate data.
Right.
The elevation profiles that you use on Google Earth Pro, which is the way the whole thing is mapped, they're all flat. So again, this is like my example of the stars earlier. You take a point in the distance and you draw a line to that point. That's your baseline. It's flat. Then take a point from that distance and go to the next point, however many miles in the distance. Miles are also flat, by the way. That's also flat. You do that all the way across the Earth, it's flat the whole way. The only time you start seeing curvature in Google Earth Pro is when you pull back and they give you that CGI image of the world, that the same one that the Universal Studios and NASA and all those other places give us. But practically, when you work with building on it, when you work with surveying Earth, when you work with observing what you can see, to the distances that you can see, it's always dealt with flat in 100% of the cases. And if it's not, you get big problems, big problems. You get bridges that collapse. You get tunnels that collapse.
Yeah.
You're not going to build something that's on a curve because there is no curve. And all of the large earthworks projects that are undertaken by these construction companies, they also do not calculate any curvature into their calculations when they're doing
that 90% of the surveyors in the world, and I've got some on my channel, are called planar surveyors, PLANAR, otherwise known as flat plane. And by definition, they treat the world on the project. We're not talking small projects. We're talking entire car manufacturing facilities, airports. They treat the world like it's absolutely flat. And when you get up to giant projects, I mean, stuff like national parks, then you go into geodetic surveyors. And there's a real rift between these groups now, because now we've got the planar surveyors, but the geodetics can't come on board with us because by definition, it's like, oh no, the world's got to be a globe. And it's like, yeah, but you're just kind of eyeballing it, for national parks. It's not mission critical like an airport. So there you go.
Interesting.
In situations where lives are at stake, it's always dealt with flat. 100% of the cases.
Yep.
Wow. We've learned a lot tonight. Folks.
I don't know. I'm confused.
What?
But I'm confused where it's like they kind of make some points.
Do you want to? Are you intrigued? Do you want to know more?
Nope. I'd rather not know, actually. Sure, please.
One more big one.
Of course.
The Black Swan image, the famous Black Swan image. So
Natalie Portman.
The way that the Earth is said to be dealt with, the globe Earth, is if the Earth is a sphere of radius 3959 miles, then all distances to the horizon can be no more than 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That means that...
Yeah, of course. Everybody knows that.
That means according to how high you are, that
you don't know how high I am.
The quote unquote curve of the Earth has to be a certain distance, and you won't be able to see beyond it.
Right.
But in the Black Swan image, which is an image of two oil derricks taken off the coast of a beach with a horizon behind them, and the two oil derricks are roughly 6 and 9 miles away, you can see a horizon at far beyond the distance that the calculated curve of the Earth should be. So the camera height is around 1 foot, I believe. There's multiple images, and this is one of many cases like this.
Right.
So what should be visible is about 3 miles. You should be only able to see about 3 miles. I know Nathan really doesn't like it when people say should, but most people think in terms of globe Earth, so that's why I'm using the word. And the first oil derrick is 6 miles away. The second oil derrick is over 9 miles away. And then there's a horizon behind the oil derricks that's probably who knows how far away. A horizon is an optical. It's where its optical resolution fades, where the sky fades into the ground. So we're able to see at minimum 10 times beyond what you quote unquote should be able to see on Earth, because it's just flat, because we just see things in the distance. And people who believe they live in a globe with absolutely no evidence whatsoever, there is none other than what they've been indoctrinated to believe, say, well, the reason that we should see this and that and the other is because blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, no, I just see something because the Earth's flat. I just see something that's 10 miles away because the Earth's flat.
Also, I appreciate your plain spoken nature when it comes to these things. Every technical measurement that we need to prove your point, and then you go, well, it's simply because it's flat and I could see it. And you break it right down to that, to brass tacks, and I appreciate that about you.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. I guess my last question for you guys, is there any way that the globists can prove to you that you're wrong? What would they have to show you to prove to you that you are wrong?
You wanna start, Alt?
Yeah, can I go first? Sure.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Please.
Nothing. I know the Earth's flat. The Earth is measured, observed, navigated, built upon, aviated, flat in every single case. So the Earth, the air that we breathe, cannot achieve air pressure without containment, and the Earth doesn't move. So no, there's absolutely nothing anyone could convince me of, because I do not believe, as I said at the beginning, that the Earth is flat. I know the Earth's flat. It's provably, measurably flat. Earth is measured flat.
Okay.
By the way, yeah, I love I can hear the Nathan Oakley coming out of you.
I'm a student.
I can tell. Nathan Oakley beats people up on a regular basis. It's awesome.
He's the best. I love it.
I will be a little softer in that the only thing that could give me doubt, and there's two things I put out there because I've had this question put at me for years.
Really?
I'll give you the expensive version. I'll give you the cheap version. The expensive version, and it's not even that expensive, is you put a GoPro camera on a rocket. You know, the top capsule, make sure this rocket is going to leave orbit. You point it down. You don't turn on the editing. You know, don't edit it, and you fire that thing off. And as it goes up, eventually the land should turn into a nice globe as it leaves and goes away, right? That has never happened in the history of space travel. Statistically speaking, that's impossible. It should have absolutely happened by now by one of the space organizations. Never happened. In fact, why Elon, in all his wisdom with the roadster in space with 3 different cameras, it's like, oh, we're going to send this thing to Mars. Should have done it, and he didn't, because they can't. You can't allow that to happen because it can't be done, right? To Alt's point. That's the expensive version. But the cheap version that I put out there is like, okay, fine. You don't want to put a rocket on, a camera on a rocket. That's fine. Let's do the pressure experiment, which is the only thing, you can put anything in a vacuum chamber, a basketball, a football, whatever it is, a can of soda, it's going to explode, right? Which is why you have hard containers when it comes to a vacuum, right? The only soft container that has never apparently been affected by a vacuum, you know what it is? It's the spacesuit. Don't know why. They can't explain it. And so I said, okay, you know what? I'm so confident that your spacesuit's a piece of crap, which means that everything that showed the spacesuit is a piece of crap, that I'm willing to get into one of these things. You can, from any era, because none of them failed. So I don't know why you keep changing them, because the motorcycle suits you were using in the 1960s, I don't know why you got the thing now. Loan me
I like the ones with the tassels.
There you go. Put me in one of those. Put me, and not, just loan it. I'd be a loaner. Put me in a vacuum chamber, pull the switch. Tell me how I don't die. Tell me how that happens. Because I can, and you can't fake that it's a vacuum chamber, because I can prove it's a vacuum chamber with like $4 worth of materials, a bell, a glass of water, and a balloon, right? All these things. No one, 4 years I put that challenge out there. No one will touch it, because no one's in a freaking vacuum chamber. Why, when you look up, person in a vacuum chamber, why do they keep showing James May from Top Gear in a G-force suit, which is a tethered suit inside this tiny little vacuum chamber, and when it goes rigid? The point is when you're in a vacuum chamber, the spacesuit will turn into a parade float. It will absolutely go rigid in the shape. You won't be able to bend your arms and legs. Definitely won't. But yet, when you're on the moon, right, in a total vacuum, oh, these guys, perfect articulation. You can bend your elbows and knees, and oh, look, I can build, all sorts of fun electronics, on the moon. It's like, and it was brilliant in that when they did it, they just said, we'll just go with a soft suit. Nobody in America knows physics anyway. They'll buy it. It's on television. I have heard that time and time. Sorry, last part. I don't want to drag this out.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
When I ask people from other countries, I go, I understand in America why you believe in Apollo, right? It's like, go team. I totally get it. In the 60s, you couldn't touch America. We were absolutely the shining beacon hero on the hill. Why do you, person from this group from Sweden, why do you guys believe the Americans went to the moon? You know what they all tell me? They all tell me the same thing, because it was on television. And the American media would never lie about something like that. And I go, wow, you guys don't know us at all. If it makes us look better, America will lie about everything.
When have they ever lied?
Yeah, exactly. Why would they ever lie? So yeah.
We're not going to let you besmirch our country here, sir.
How dare you?
So
Cardiff is very patriotic.
I'm going to fact check you.
So one of those two things would give me a little doubt, but since no one has approached me in either of them, I'm going with Alt's position on this. It's like, no, it's absolutely flat. It's never going to happen, because no one's even tried. The same thing of why no space organization has gone up since 1972. They can't. the media has become such a microscope nowadays. You can't fake anything anymore worth a damn. So they're just kind of going through the motions and hope that people just kind of wave it off, which is where we come in. We kind of, shine a spotlight on it.
Can I say one last thing?
Of course.
Yeah, Mark, if anybody ever takes you up on that offer to enter a vacuum chamber, please don't do it because you're just going to explode.
Dude. And by the way, thank you for. I actually got an email just a couple days ago. It's like, don't, they'll kill you. It's like they're never gonna do it.
No,
and
of course.
even if they did, oh my God, are you kidding? What a way to go!
I don't think the Playtex bra material is going to protect you.
Well, exactly. It's like the suit again. Even if you could convince me that in 2024 that the space would protect me, right? How did they do it in 1969? Right? 1969 was all analog. It's like, and oh, sorry, one more last thing. This will give you a hint about the spacesuit, right? And I sent Cardiff. I sent you a little video about the curve with the Black Swan event. The full video from the Santa Barbara region, California. Have fun with that. But the other thing, which is, you guys know anybody that scuba dives?
I don't hang out with dorks, Mark.
All right. Well, you know at least what it is, right? Scuba people that scuba dive, right? You go in and
we've seen real people doing real things. Yes.
There you go. Which and all they care about, all scuba divers care about, is the big gauge on their wrist. It says how much air they have left, right? That's all they care about, which is all they should care about, right? It's like, oh, we got 9 minutes air left. Might think about going back up. You know who never cared about how much air they had left? Every astronaut ever, including the moon astronauts. It's like, they never came up. It's like, really? Because you drove that moon buggy 4 miles outside of nowhere. It's like, what if that thing broke down? You're going to have to hoof it back. You got enough air? You don't know because you never talk about it. It's unlimited air. How do they do it?
They were too busy playing golf, Mark.
There you go. Nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. And that's where we call them out on it. Sorry, we'll backtrack to the origin thing. That's how I got into it. I looked at it and it's like, I can shut down flat Earth in a weekend. And the more I looked at it, the worse it got, to where I'm sitting there 9 months later, staring at my ceiling at 3 a.m. going, I can't prove the globe in a court of law anymore. I can't do it. And so that's when I made the clues and put them out there and said, internet, help me solve this. And they couldn't do it. So I said, all right, fine. I'm freaking flat.
I want to thank you, Mark, for answering our first question.
It only took an hour and a half, but thank you.
I mean, it's easy. It's a well-known story, but it's true. I mean, I tried to disprove it, thought I could do it. I'm a clever problem solver, and I couldn't do it. And so I said, I'm going to go flat. And I honestly thought that some academic, some PhD was going to call me up and say, all right, here's where you screwed up. You forgot to carry the 2. You can shut down your YouTube channel now. But the opposite happened. Everybody started calling me with all these different things, and the subject matter experts and everybody that's tied to it in some way said, dude, you're not that nuts. Here's why. And they just kept giving me more and more pieces, and I'm going, this can't be actually happening. And it was, to where, again, the saying, that I've been saying lately, it's impossible but true. It can't be true. Like the freaking platypus, right? Platypus. Side note, the platypus live in front of scientists, walking around, looking at him with his beady little eyes. They refused to believe it. They thought it was surgically altered, stitched together with other animals. They could not believe it because it was impossible. That's what flat Earth is to them. The academics won't accept it because they can't. They don't know what to do with it. It's going to ruin their lives.
Man, I'm really
can I say one last thing too?
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, at the very beginning, thank you. At the very beginning, I said, people will ask you, but why would they lie? Or how could a conspiracy be this big? And it's like, yeah, it's not my job to divine the motivations of known liars. But for the people who maybe at this point, they're a little bit like, well, those are some interesting points. But I mean, come on, how could conspiracy be this big? How could all these people be in on it? And again, not that many people are actually in on it. Remember what happened in 2020? Remember how every single government of the entire world was in lockstep with the exact same narrative? So when you ask how
Flatten the Curve was about that?
Yeah.
That was a twofer, by the way.
Holy shit, Cardiff, you put it together.
Truth drop in there, wasn't there?
Yep.
So, yeah, there can be very vague, massive, vast conspiracies that involve every single country and every single level of government. Yeah, we've seen it firsthand.
Sure.
All right. Well, I want to thank both of you for your time tonight. Of course, folks, please follow Alt Skull at Fake
Oh,
and gay
can I-
61.
Can I give
Sure.
my Twitter is just like a lurker account. So I mean, fine if you
Sure.
want to follow it, please. Fake and gay 61, sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
But my main social media is on Telegram. So if you want to follow me on Telegram, I've got about 36,000 followers, and I also admin on another channel called the Paranormies, which is Paranormies is a podcast we do, and I'm a frequent co-host on there. So you can visit Paranormies at paranormies.com. It's PARANORMIES.com. And then we also have a 31,000 Telegram sub count Telegram channel. That is the so t.me/altskull48. t.me/altskull48 is my Telegram, and then the same thing, t.me/the Paranormies present if you're interested, and if you have Telegram. Telegram's a really good social media
And
platform.
we're definitely going to put a link for all of those in the description of this video.
Thank you.
Mine's simple, which is because the censorship changes every day. Just type into any search engine Flat Earth Mark and follow the rabbit hole. And I don't care, whose content you run into on the way. Just again, do your own research, ask questions, figure it out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. You got to change your own mind.
All right. Well, Mark Sargent, thank you for your time, and Alt Skull.
Thank
It's
you,
been-
gentlemen.
Both of you gentlemen, we'll love to have you back sometime. I hope you you had a good time. As much
Thanks,
of
guys. It
fun
was
time as we
really
did.
fun, and that was a great surprise seeing getting to do a podcast with Mark. Wow, man, I'm a big fan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Another Dabble versus Love
No, you did
connection.
really well, man. You know your stuff. That's awesome.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think they made friends, Cardiff.
Mhm.
We're bringing people together.
All
We're
flat
bringing
earthers
people
are
together.
friends.
How has
All
there
right,
been a
gentlemen.
Flat Earth con? Before I let you, has there been another Flat Earth con?
Oh yeah,
recently?
we just did one. The hurricane wiped out the campsite. It was in North Carolina, and we still had people that made it there. The next one, we don't know when the next one's going to be. It's definitely in 2025. But we have regional meetups all the time. We've been doing conferences ever since 2017. Again, check out the Netflix/Amazon documentary Behind the Curve. You get kind of a snapshot. It's a hit piece on us, but hey, you know what? It's still somewhat accurate as far as the other people involved. And but yeah, lots of conferences, lots of different ways. Oh, I'm sorry, one more real quick plug. We have an app that's out there. It's called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. That is done by a channel called DITRH called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, and it's really awesome. So check it out. There you
All
go.
right.
Thank
Sounds
you,
good.
gentlemen.
All right, gentlemen. We'll see you again, hopefully sometime soon. Take care.
Thanks, God.
Thanks very
Oh,
much.
I didn't mean to.
Thank you.
You're
Galaga.
you're welcome. Should we bring Jimmy back? We'll
No.
allow it.
No.
Jimmy.
Why'd you ask?
It's
You're just gonna
it's a
do
good
it anyway.
question. Jimmy, if people want to get all the great bonus content Cardiff and I keep promising we're going to make,
We make so many promises. We promise so much big bonus content.
where
We
will
promise
people be
more
able
bonus
to?
content than anyone else promises. We're the kings of promising content.
Head
We're
on
the
over to
content
Subreddit.
kings.
Would you stop interrupting Jimmy? He's trying to.
I'm trying to plug
Jeez.
subredditsurfing.com and head on over to the Patreon.
Thank you.
Bonus
Join us there.
content, which we got to get a head on.
Yes, we got.
Oh yeah, we got
we
a
got to do that
plan.
before Halloween. Definitely before Halloween.
All right, done and
It's
done.
October 2nd, and I'm like,
I
we
want
got
to,
to get it done before Halloween.
I want to pick a good day during the weekend where I have off, where we could really enjoy Song of the South together as friends.
Yes,
Yes,
Maybe invite Anthony Cumia to come watch.
I think that would be a good one for him
that'd be hilarious.
to join us on.
I'm pretty sure I get Missy B. I don't know if Ant's gonna spend any time with us on that, but
Hmm.
you guys have been such a cool audience tonight. Thank you for joining us. I know a lot of you, have very firm beliefs. Your minds aren't changed. That's fine, but you got to hear something from a different perspective tonight, and
And
we
I want to
appreciate you for that.
apologize. I don't think we had the chat tonight working for whatever
Nope.
reason. So
Wasn't
I
working.
apologize. We couldn't talk to you, chat, as much, but we tried. But that's Vinny's fault. He's fat.
Certainly is. It's completely my fault. My big fat ass's fault.
He sat
Blocked
on
the chat.
He sat
I
on the
sat
chat.
on the chat. All right, we're getting the fuck out of here. We'll see you guys next week. Until
I'm
then,
woozy.
act right. Surfs up, big kahunas.
Surfs up.
Sit, Eugene, sit. Good dog. Da, 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 da.